Chapter 5. Map and Par. In this section of the Radiant Introductory Training Series, we will discuss post-synthesis constraints, and post-place and route implementation checks for Radiant projects. Chapter 5 consists of 7 sections. In the first section of the chapter, Creating Constraints with Device Constraint Editor, we will introduce Radiant's Device Constraint Editor, and how it can be used to create physical constraints for a project's device. In section 2 of the chapter, Creating PTC Constraints with Post-Synthesis Timing Constraint Editor, Radiant's Post-Synthesis Timing Constraint Editor is introduced, and how it can be used to create timing constraints after synthesis. In section 3 of chapter 5, Using Physical Designer, we will discuss Radiant's Physical Designer, and what it can be used for. In the fourth section of the chapter, Using Power Calculator, we will discuss Radiant's Power Calculator tool, and how it can be used to calculate the static and dynamic power consumption of a design. In the fifth section of the chapter, Using Timing Analyzer, we will discuss Radiant's Timing Analyzer tool, and how it can be used to check a design's timing performance after place and route. In section 6 of the chapter, Using Run Manager, the Run Manager tool will be introduced, as well as how it can be used to run the project flow for multiple implementations in a project. Finally, in the 7th section of this chapter, we will discuss Radiant's sysio Editor tool. Chapter 5, Section 7. Using sysio Editor. In this section of the video series, we will be discussing Radiant's sysio Editor, and how it can be used to modify some design settings after place and route. Radiant's Engineering Change Order Editor, abbreviated as sysio Editor for short, is a tool that can be used once a design has completed place and route, to make some minor changes to a design settings. The settings and changes that are made using sysio Editor are written directly to a design's UDB file, without requiring users to rerun the project design flow again. The two main settings that can be modified for a design using sysio Editor are some IO settings, and how a design's memory is initialized. With that said, there are two ways that sysio Editor can be launched. The first way is by selecting the sysio Editor icon from Radiant's toolbar, as can be seen from the figure on the slide. The second way to launch sysio Editor is to select Tools from Radiant's menu bar, then sysio Editor from the drop-down list of options. Once sysio Editor has opened, users should see something similar to the figure on the slide. As can be seen from the bottom of the window, sysio Editor has two main tabs, sysio Settings, and Memory Initialization. Each of these tabs contains one of the main settings that can be modified using sysio Editor. The default tab when sysio Editor is opened is its sysio Settings tab, which can be seen from the figure on the slide. As can be seen from the figure, on the left side of the sysio Settings tab are the I/O ports in a design. These are the I/O ports whose settings can be modified using sysio Editor. At the top of the window are the I/O settings for a design. The first few columns contain general information about an I/O port, like its direction, pin location, and I/O bank. The rest of the columns in the first row of the sysio Editor window correspond to the different I/O settings that can be modified. By double-clicking any of the cells below an I/O setting, users can modify the system I/O setting for an I/O port. With that said, we are now going to discuss sysio Editor's Memory Initialization tab. As its name implies, the Memory Initialization tab of sysio Editor can be used to initialize a design's memory after it has been placed and routed. As can be seen from the figure on the slide, the Memory Initialization tab is fairly simple. The exact contents of this window depend on the components in the design being developed. If a design has any memory locations that can be initialized, a Memory Initialization field will appear below a memory instance. To initialize the memory of an instance in a design, click the Choose File option, and select the Memory Initialization file for the memory instance. If any changes were made in either sysio Editor tab, a design rule check can be performed using the DRC icon on the side of the sysio Editor's window, as can be seen from the example on the slide. If there are no issues with the design rule check, then users should save their changes to add them to a design. After the changes have been saved, users can proceed with the project development flow and generate a programming file for their project's device. As changes are made to the I/O settings and memory instances of a design using sysio Editor, the tickle commands used to make changes to a design will be updated in Radiant's Output console. A useful feature of eCO Editor is that users can generate a tickle script with the changes made using eCO Editor using the export icon, as can be seen from the example on the slide. The tickle commands for any system I/O setting, or memory initialization file related changes will be saved to this script. This script is useful, as it can be invoked later on during Radiant, to automatically make the same changes that were previously made using eCO Editor. That concludes this chapter of the introductory training series. To view the next chapter in the video series, select the video called Chapter 6, Device Programming and Debugging.